So Supergirl starring Millie Alcock cost around $175 million it just got beaten in pre-sales by a horror film for the price of a used Honda. So that actually happened this week. The Millie Alcock Supergirl pre-sale numbers are in and they are bad. Okay, so a movie that cost $175 million just got beaten in pre-sales by, not just a horror movie, but also they're doing worse than Black Widow here. The Supergirl pre-sale numbers are in and they're definitely bad, and Millie Alcock is the new face of this franchise, and this is the debut nobody at the studio wanted. So Supergirl was supposed to be the film that proved that DCU had real momentum, and Millie Alcock landed the hit fantasy show, so the casting was never the issue. Now, Supergirl marketing is where the trouble started and stuff, and Millie Alcock has been out front of that campaign from the beginning. So Supergirl is heading into a release with soft tracking and a nervous studio and stuff, and Millie Alcock is the name attached to those numbers. Now, fair or not, but Supergirl opens June 26th, and the early read is ugly, and Millie Alcock is about to see exactly how that read holds up. So, like I said, Supergirl 6 to break even, it needs somewhere around $315 million worldwide, reportedly, on a net budget of about $175 million before you add marketing to spend on top. So that's the starting position right there. The pre-sales Black Widow. So if track the gap between what these movies are projected to do and what they actually do, you'll be able to pull the real pre-sale figures and the real break-even numbers rather than the studio's press release. So basically, in the first 24 hours, sold roughly 110,000 tickets for about $1.75 million in pre-sales. I mean, that's right under where Black Widow was at the same stage, despite it being a pandemic and stuff. And it's about even with the Marvels, which did around 95,000. Okay. The Marvels is one of the biggest superhero bombs in modern history, and Supergirl is tracking right alongside it. So opening weekend tracking started at 55 million plus, with a realistic window between 47 and 65 million. Okay, now Superman, on the other hand, opened and 75 million, and Superman is the more popular character and the flagship, so it sets the ceiling, and Supergirl is well below it. So basically the full domestic run tells the same story, where analysts have the movie landing somewhere between $7 and $181 million for its entire North American gross. So yeah, the high end of that range and stuff is below what Superman did in a single opening weekend, and the calendar makes it harder, with Toy Story 5 arriving a week before, pulling the exact family audience that Supergirl needs. Now, the math was tight before the first ticket ever went on sale. Now, the marketing is a big part of why the number looks like this. Y'all remember the campaign and stuff gives off Captain Marvel energy, where they Supergirl arm wrestles a guy basically, and then she snaps his arm basically for no reason, and people compared it instantly to the smug, charmless Captain Marvel beats that audiences already rejected once, and that memory is still fresh. Okay, so the press tour, Millie Alcock, the lead actress, made comments that circulated everywhere, mocking critics as, dad of 4, Christian, and saying that if you're upsetting the right people, you're doing okay. So the people who buy tickets to a Supergirl movie starring Millie Alcock are dads taking their daughters and families. Sneering at that audience on the press tour is a liability for a movie carrying a $400 million break-even target. Okay, now remember, this fits a pattern that studios keep repeating, and the girl boss formula was already wearing thin by the time on it, and it has weakened every year since. So the Marvels ran the same play basically and bombed. Audiences can tell when a character is built around, a message instead of a story, and they have been voting against it at the box office for years. And Supergirl is path with the same energy, and guess what, the early numbers reflected. I mean, two other so-called sure things that hit the same wall last weekend with the Mandalorian and Grogu. An actual theatrical Star Wars movie had opened about $98 million over the 4-day window and dropped 67%, and it's sitting near $294 million worldwide against a break-even $500 and $600 million. And it's an open question whether it even clears $200 million domestic. Now, a Star Wars movie mark at the box office, and Supergirl is heading for that same clip with even softer pre-sales, okay? And Millie Alcock is about to learn that a famous logo does not move tickets anymore. And Supergirl has none of the brand history that Star Wars just threw. Alcock is just selling a character most casual fans barely know, and Supergirl needs general audiences, and general audiences skip the bigger names, okay? So Millie Alcock can't count on the curiosity that, even a fading Star Wars title still gets. Girl is walking right into the market that just rejected two huge franchises, and Millie Alcock is carrying that timing on her shoulders. And right now, Supergirl on paper is the smaller bet of all of them, and Millie Alcock is the one who has to make that bet pay off, okay? So Masters of the Universe, brutal one, okay? So they spent around $200 million to bring He-Man back and stuff. The marketing was a little clever. They leaned into memes, and the scores from people who saw it were decent. It opened to $29 million, only about 5% of the opening week under 12, and the biggest group was 45 to 54-year-olds, and the kids weren't there. The nostalgia crowd showed up, and that was it, okay? So you can't sustain a $200 million tentpole on the people who already remember the brand itself, okay? Basically, all of this lands on the DCU at the worst possible time, with Superman gave James Gunn's reboot a real start and set a high bar. Supergirl was supposed to be the second pillar that proved the universe had momentum, and Millie Alcock was just handed the job of carrying that weight. Supergirl tracking with the Marvels tells fans that the universe is shaky after one film. Millie Alcock did not write the strategy, but she is the face of it, and Supergirl was meant to expand the audience Superman pulled in, and Millie Alcock instead just inherited a campaign that pushed that audience away. Supergirl puts pressure on every project Gunn has lined up behind it, and Millie Alcock is now tied to whether that slate survives. And Supergirl, if it underperforms, forces a rethink of the whole plan, and Millie Alcock sits at the center of that decision, okay? So a horror movie called stuff is printing money basically at the same time, and it was made for around $750,000, and it has done roughly $152 million domestic and over $220 million worldwide. At A- cinema score, 94%. No giant IP, no franchise, no 50-year-old brand. It ran on word of mouth. People saw it, told their friends it was good, and went, okay? So the advertising was free because the audiences did it themselves, okay? And comedy is also showing some as well, okay? Now, Scary Movie posted a franchise best opening around $55 million and did it on a small budget. Audiences turned out for something they just wanted to entertain them, and that's the same engine driving Obsession on a different genre. Now, when a movie respects the audience and the audience shows up and the budget barely matters, okay? But the contrast to this is the whole point. You see, Superman sort of worked, but not really. Scary Movie worked. Obsession built the hit out of nothing. The audience is sitting right there with money to spend, and for movies that feel new and don't treat it like, the enemy. It walks away when the only reason to buy a ticket is the logo on the poster. I mean, $200 million couldn't save He-Man. The Star Wars name and logo alone couldn't save the Mandalorian. I mean, 750 grand and a movie that respected its audience, built a genuine hit. Okay, so Supergirl is walking into, that same lesson, and Millie Alcock is the one who has to live it out in public, and Supergirl can't buy its way past with the budget alone. So basically, I mean, Millie Alcock learned that a press tour, can cost more than it earns, and Supergirl needed goodwill, and a rollout spent it. Millie Alcock has 3 weeks left and not much room to move, so Supergirl opens against the market that rewards respect, basically. So, and Millie Alcock is about to find out which side of that line this movie sits on. So Supergirl gets its verdict on June 26th. Millie Alcock gets hers the same day. And Supergirl's pre-sales are tracking with the Marvels, as I said, and Millie Alcock is fronting a poking the exact audience it needs. And Supergirl is getting outgrossed by a horror movie made for nothing. And Millie Alcock and the studio still have 3 weeks to turn this around. Now, Supergirl could still surpass people, but the numbers are not on its side. Millie Alcock will need word of mouth what the marketing couldn't. And as you all know, Supergirl opens June 26th, and we will all see the real number then. And Millie Alcock's debut rides on that weekend, because Supergirl is the box office story to watch this month, and Millie Alcock is the name on the marquee. Or worse, I want to hear from you all. Which 2026 movie do you think flops next? Drop that in the comments below. As usual, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.